Utah Legislature this session that are really a grassroots effort from citizens across the nation and across Utah who are simply fed up with the federal encroachment of state sovereignty and a realization on the part of citizens across this state that we have to act now to end the continual encroachment of the federal government on state rights and on individual rights. I am Senator Howard Stevenson. I am the sponsor of Senate Joint Resolution 6, Joint Resolution State Sovereignty and 10th Amendment. I'm going to turn the time over in a minute to someone who will explain this resolution more fully, because this is a resolution that has been drafted by citizens of the state of Utah in conjunction with citizens in other states who are drafting similar resolutions. I understand that so far in the Utah Legislature, we are only on day one of the legislature, and yet there are already 10 statutes that have been proposed addressing federal issues and federal encroachment on states' rights. And there are about 7 resolutions so far. I don't think there have ever been this many resolutions and statutes proposed to suddenly and finally rein in federal excesses over states' rights. As you know, the 10th Amendment is very simple. It essentially says that any power not enumerated in the Constitution given to the federal government, all other powers are reserved to the states and to the people, not to federal government. And yet we ask ourselves, what is it in the Constitution that gives the federal government the right to dictate to states how we educate our children? What is it in the Constitution that gives the federal government the right to have any say over the health care of our people? And I could go on and...
Appreciate you all being here, by the way. A resolution is not a law. It's a statement of resolve to act in a certain way, put on paper. This resolution we submit today is not intended to be a shout-out to the federal government, because we know they're not listening. Okay. This is a plea of the people, through the people of Utah and the people throughout the nation to become active participants rather than casual observers in this fight to keep our children and grandchildren from becoming servants to an ever-expanding government. We hope, too, this will signal to current prospective office holders at all levels here in Utah that there are a lot of people that are about to become an informed electorate. Many of your constituents will now expect you to walk the talk and legislate according to your oath of office, where you each did solemnly swear to support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Utah State Constitution. The Declaration of Independence in 1776 was also a resolution from the people, whose government has failed to uphold and protect their rights to life, liberty, and property. In their own words, they proclaimed, quote, "We have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of the free people." Unquote. We represent a grassroots alliance of Utahns who have a civil, local solution to our problems. We are the people of the state of Utah. We are mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, grandfathers and grandmothers. We are the descendants of 22 generations of American war dead who gave their lives to preserve liberty for their posterity. We are the grandchildren of pioneers and immigrants who gave up everything for the cause of freedom. We have concluded, like those who penned that declaration in 1776, that based on the overreach of the federal government over our lifetime, that most of our federal leaders are unfit to be rulers of a free people. It has become apparent that the people of America, and more specifically the people of Utah, do not understand the basic principles of liberty, or what constitutes inalienable rights, or what is the proper role of government. 2010, we find ourselves about to be devoured by a beast that historians and our scriptures have warned us about for centuries. This resolution is one of several educational efforts we intend to use to educate and warn younger Utahns about the consequences they will inherit because of the apathy of their parents and their grandparents. Today, some of us are here to take a stand for our children and our grandchildren. We implore all Utahns of faith and integrity to rise from their sofas and turn off their TVs for a few hours every week and join us in this very specific neighborhood project. Freedom without books is dead. In 1787, after 178 years of studying past societies and through their own societal trial and error, 13 sovereign colonies created a limited government and defined its scope and powers in a written constitution. That day they produced an unprecedented miracle, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Those sovereign states became united sovereign states. The framers of the Constitution proclaimed that scope of the federal government as one, quote, whose powers were to be few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and indefinite. And they did define those federal powers. In Article 1, Section 8, they very specifically enumerated or listed those powers that the people would grant that new government. Foreseeing a time in the future where compromised American politicians might even debate what the meaning of the word is, the Founding Fathers built an additional safeguard. They added a Bill of Rights to further protect the rights of the people from that government. In the preface to that document, they expressed, quote, in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, unquote. Then they laid out those further declaratory and restrictive amendments one by one. The most important protection they placed in that document was what we're here for today, is the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment reads, quote, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to it by the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people, unquote. Again, there they placed in the supreme law of the land that the powers not delegated to federal government are reserved to the states and the people. That concept could not be more clear. Over the past 100 years, there never has been a rule of law so twisted and perverted by judges and politicians as have been the limitations of federal powers intended by our nation's founders in that Constitution. Today, after generations of tyranny and a century of our own neglect, those 50 sovereign states have become mere servants of an overreaching and ever-expanding government that they created simply to protect their rights. That government of the people has become a government over the people.
Absolutely. I'll say who on that one.
Those of us here and people all over the United States have had enough. You've seen the tip of the iceberg in the tea parties and the town hall meetings and in the recent election results back east. We've had enough of government forgetting that it is the creature and the people are its creator. We've had enough of federal government taking powers that were not delegated to it by our Constitution. We've had enough of government trying to redefine our God-given rights. A government that can create artificial rights can also take away our true rights when it becomes expedient to them. We've had enough of federal government shutting off Utah's energy and revenue-producing land. We've had enough of manufactured crises designed to redistribute the fruits of our labor for political expediency. That's not social justice, that's despotism.
Sorry, who on that one too. Oh yeah.
We've had enough of the federal government, we've had enough of we've had enough of runaway spending and mounting debt that has literally placed shackles on our children and grandchildren. We've had enough of that big lie that the way to get out of debt is to spend more money.